The Switch 2 keycards are killing third-party sales, at least according to the headlines, and it's clickbait, so let's talk about it. Now, I've been clear that I'm not a fan of the keycards introduced by Nintendo, but I'm not willing to say that keycards are destroying third-party sales. Because what everybody's reporting is that the Switch 2 sales only have 40% of the sales go towards third-party, and the rest is basically just Mario Kart. And on the surface, that sounds really alarming, that majority of sales are one game and everything else is getting ignored, but if you dig a little bit deeper, you realize it's not that simple. To start, the original Switch only sold 20% of their games towards third-party, and everything else was the first-party games. But even that isn't that straightforward because the original Switch had a hell of a lot less games, and a lot of the games were actually digital only, so there were less options. The Switch 2, on the other hand, only has one first-party game and way better third-party games, so the sales were obviously going to be higher anyway. That being said, the Switch 1's numbers come from a whole month of sales, and we've barely reached 2 weeks with the Switch 2, so the numbers just don't add up. What we really need is more time and more games to be sold with keycards rather than full versions on the cartridge. And even though I'm not a fan, I have to admit that it makes sense for third parties to use keycards because some cartridges are just going to be too expensive for them to purchase, and we're the ones that are going to have to pay, and I don't want to have to keep paying $80 for every single game. Truth of the matter is, nobody knows. Anybody who's blaming the keycards is doing it as clickbait because we don't have enough information. The Switch 1 sales were actually worse for third parties, but the Switch 2 release is actually bigger, so the numbers don't really add up, and we won't know until more companies are using keycards for their sales, and then we can see if it's actually harmful. What do you think? Are keycards going to be the detriment to third-party sales? Let me know.